in and say, as members of TNA, we depend on you to elect individuals to our board of directors and our leadership succession committee who will represent and carry your voice forward. So your attendance at tonight's forum is a testament to your dedication in ensuring that you're making an informed decision and to your dedication to the association. So I thank you for that. Candidates who will be on the ballot were provided two questions for this evening and will have 90 seconds to respond. These questions were based on TNA's mission, vision, and strategic plan. After the candidates for each position have spoken, we will have time for questions from the audience. Because we have a limited amount of time together, I will be moderating those questions. So if you have one for the candidates, please enter that into the chat and we will go through the questions that way. And so I am now pleased to introduce Dr. Sarah Williams, the chair of our Leadership Succession Committee, who will begin moderating our forum tonight.
All right. Good evening, everyone. The Leadership Succession Committee slated or prepared the ballot following the policies regarding nominations and elections for the TNA offices. The ballot will allow for write-in candidates, and if a write-in candidate is elected, they will be vetted to ensure that they meet the criteria and then contacted to submit their consents to serve. Candidates for the office of TNA Treasurer, board members, and Leadership Succession Committee Chair will be called upon as they are listed on the ballot, which was determined by random selection by office. Members who are running for the ANA Membership Assembly Representative will not be presenting this evening. However, I would like to acknowledge those nurses who are here tonight. And of course, when I call your name, if you would please turn your cameras on and wave at us. And please leave your camera on until all names are called. Our first candidate is Gina Alvarez. Are you there, Gina? Hearing no, Pat Sherry, Sherry, Hallie Carr, Veronica Caesar, Lori Forbes, and Ebony Gibrahar Wariat. Are there other membership assembly representative candidates in attendance? If so, we ask that you would please raise your hand so that we can recognize you. All right. The following questions were posed to the candidates for treasurer and board members. The first question was taking TNA's mission, their vision, and strategic plan into consideration. What is one thing you would like to achieve if elected? The second question is, how would you contribute to TNA's efforts to recruit and engage members? Those of you that are out there, we do ask that you would put your questions in the chat box. And as Serena has said, she's going to monitor those questions and someone will unmute you. We are going to first now hear from candidates to serve as TNA treasurer. The candidate who is elected will serve for a term of 2 years from 2026 to 2028 and will also serve as an alternate ANA membership assembly representative if the president-elect, or the immediate past president are not able to attend. And so we're going to get started. Our first candidate is Arturo Rodriguez. You have 90 seconds to respond. Arturo, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
As introduced, my name is Art Rodriguez. I'm a nurse with over 30 years of experience, having worked many fields of nursing in many capacities. So my nursing background has been well established educationally wise. I am a graduate of Texas Tech in the doctoral program. I did go to UT for my master's in public health, and my bachelor's is from UT Brownsville. And I've worked in fields both inside and outside of nursing. Professionally, I've worked both in administration, running the finances of a home health agency. I've worked in the hospital for many years, and at one time I led my own company, staffing company. And most recently, I am the director of the Health, Wellness, and Animal Services Department for the city of Brownsville, where I serve in various capacities, including not only director, but also I serve in the credit union as one of their safety committee and audit committee. And my experience specifically to this role, I want to highlight that I am also past chairman of the Texas Border Health Officials Association, where we would look at many of the finances. And of course, as director, I play a pivotal role in the budget process for my department. Why do I want to do TNA? I want to do TNA because I feel that as the field is changing,
I think time is up.
We need to unmute Sarah. I think she's still muted.
Did that unmute you?
You are unmuted now. Yes, Sarah.
Okay. So I go back. Okay, our next candidate is Rodolfo Alvarez. Rodolfo?
Yes, ma'am. So,
Okay, you're on.
thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rodolfo Olivares. I like to go by Rudy. I am currently a assistant professor at Texas Tech University in the graduate nursing program and nursing administration. Prior experience before that, I was a nurse leader at several IDNs in Dallas and in El Paso with regards to perioperative services. And I've also worked in the industry and the GPO side, sourcing for several large IDNs across the country. So what is it that I'm looking to help with the mission and vision of the TNA? And I think what I'd like to do is trying to see how we could foster and grow our membership and to look at how we could increase our revenue sources. Uh, I've attended several meetings back in Dallas and here locally in El Paso in District 1, and our participation isn't where I would like to see it at. And, we have several nursing programs here in El Paso, and I've not seen any participation from the students or, even from the nurses in the local area. So I'd like to work on trying to increase that and try to work outside the box as far as, how can we raise funds for our organization, not only at the local level, but at the state level. And, we're looking at trying to foster the scholarship funds.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rudy. Now, if you have any questions for these candidates, we would ask you to please type your question in the chat box now. And those candidates, we also ask that you would keep your answers brief. And so, Serena, are there any questions in the chat box?
There is one question right now, and just so you all know, candidates, questions from the audience, the candidates will have 60 seconds to respond. So this question comes from Ebony, and this is for both of our treasurer candidates. How do you think, as treasurers, that you can support long-term sustainability and growth of our districts and TNA overall? And Art, we'll start with you. How's that?
Thank you. I really think that that question can be best answered by the very real language that is the leadership language. There's so many people looking to ensure that they're working in a team that provides sustainability, that has fellowship, and it has a great culture. And I think if we're going to be sustainable as an organization and continue the great work that many people at TNA have done over the years, our next generation and ourselves included need to foster a collaborative environment where the culture and the leadership are accountable and responsible to the members. I really want to emphasize that the what we say and what we do need to be the same thing and not two different verses. Thank you.
Rodolfo?
So yes, that's a great question, and I would look at fostering our growth and how we can maintain our long-term sustainability. And what I had mentioned earlier, we need to look at working closely with our healthcare facilities within our regions, and not only that, but within a school of nurses, so that we could try to foster the growth of our organization. And again, looking at ways that we could increase our funding so that we can be able to support our scholarship programs and to send candidates to the TNA conferences or any other conferences that they deem as appropriate. I think that's pretty much it. So I'll go ahead and yield the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you. This next question for our treasurer candidates comes from Clement Johnson. What is your plan to bring in the newer generation nurses into this association? And so, Rodolfo, we'll start with you since we started with Art the last time.
Okay, sure. So that is going back into trying to recruit the nursing students and work with them at the school levels and work to do this across the state. So we're looking at not only the RN programs, but looking at the LVN programs and going into some of these magnet high school programs and pitching that joining TNA and ANA is the right thing for them to do. And as students, let them know that they are able to get discounts. And not only looking at the nursing schools, but also looking at the hospitals themselves. There's many nurses that are not part of ANA or TNA. And it's really important that we try to foster that growth and meet with the senior leadership of those individual facilities and try to schedule meetings with the staff, at the forums and see if we could turn around and enlist those individuals.
All right, Art, your turn to answer that question.
Great question. So, well, one of the things that I do serve is on one of the hospital boards. And every time the hospital has any activity where especially nurses are present, I really try and make a presence there so that nurses can see that another nurse can be part of the hospital board. So one of it is we need to lead by example. We need to also be truly representative of the different parts of Texas. There's many gaps. And if we understand what's going on at the local level through the chapters and engaging our chapters, I feel that those communications will be much improved. And then we definitely need to follow through. If people are joining and volunteering, we definitely need to turn that around with a high level of engagement so that we can keep them engaged in the process and not just I joined, but then I don't hear back for a week or two. And I'm speaking from personal experience where I've been on both sides. On the responsible side for people who want to join, and we don't get back to them fast enough sometimes. And then most importantly, when I want to join an organization and I don't know if they're being authentic about their true values. So I just want to finish in closing by saying is we truly need to be representative and be present so that we can engage new members.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions?
That concludes the questions in the chat, Sarah.
All right.
Treasurers.
Okay, well then that brings us up to our next set of candidates. Next are the candidates for the TNA board member at large. The candidate elected will serve a 3-year term from 2026 to 2029. And so our first candidate this evening is Louise Rice.
She is
Louise?
not in our Zoom call.
Oh, she is not. Okay, then we will go on to our next candidate, and it's Dorothy Foglia. Is Dorothy there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, you're on, Dorothy.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dorothy Folia. Most people call me Dort, D-O-R-T. I have been in the practice of nursing for many years and have served in many capacities. My current role is Chief Nursing Officer at Texas Health Frisco, which I love, love, love my role here in the community with my nurses and with the patients we serve. If elected for board member at large for TNA, I hope to achieve goals and partnership in the areas of practice, education, and research, which is rarely my true passion, in order to empower nurses and transition care for health across Texas, especially with vulnerable patients, those very young, and those that are elderly. I believe that endorsement of care for those growing numbers, especially in the elderly and the geriatric patient, is crucial to the health of Texans across the state of Texas. And I believe by my experience, most of my experience has been in the hospital, but I have served on many boards and have served in many community service opportunities to achieve goals both for myself and for those that I represent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dorothy. Good. And now we'll hear from Lori Batchelor.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you to the succession committee for including me as a candidate for consideration. I've been a member of the TNA for more than 30 years and very passionate about the amazing work that comes out of this organization. I have strong feelings about being engaged, having served in local district work, as well as serving as on the policy council and policy chair for the last couple of years. If elected, what I hope to achieve is something that will help address the disparities in healthcare across our state. If you've watched any local news, you've heard about hospitals that are closing. We have a deficit of providers, but we have an excess of amazing advanced practice nurses. At TNA, this has been a priority for many years, and we're working hard at the policy level. And what I'd hope to achieve is to be able to advance full practice authority in the state of Texas. We have 30,000 nurses within our state that would be able to mobilize to benefit our entire citizenship in those rural and underserved communities that are not currently getting the quality care every Texan deserves. Thank you.
All right, and our final candidate is Shanice Andrews. Shanice.
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Good evening, Texas nurses. My name is Shanice Andrews. I'm affectionately known as Shay by those I work with. I've been a nurse for over 10 years, and I'm really excited to just share more about myself and a little bit more about what I would do if elected. So if elected, one thing that I really want to focus on achieving is stronger member connection to the work of TNA. This is really important because every nurse should feel connected to TNA. and really confident that their voice matters. I think in action, that looks like nurses across Texas really feeling well informed, well heard, and well represented in their values. When I think about TNA's mission and vision, they really depend on an association that is really member driven and really strategically focused. And as a board member, I would really support clear communication and decision making that really helps members understand how their voices really shapes TNA's priorities, their advocacy efforts, and also the future direction of the association. I really want TNA to remain a strong and trusted association, and so that nurses feel proud to belong to it. Not only because they can see the impact, but also because they feel included in that impact. So I'm really excited about this work.
All right. Thank you so much, Shanice. If you all have any questions for these candidates, I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes now and type your question into the chat box. And I will again remind you, candidates, please keep your answers brief. And so, Serena, you can begin to monitor any questions.
Okay, we do have a few questions here in the chat. This first one is from Ebony Gebrahariat, and it asks, when members ask you, as a potential board member, what do I get for my dues? How would you answer clearly and honestly? How can we illustrate the true value of TNA membership for those who are hesitant to join or feel their membership lacks sufficient value? And so, Dort, we will start with you.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Serena. And thank you, Ebony. That is a wonderful question. What do I get for my dues? Honestly, I would ask them what they hope to achieve from being in TNA. There are so many valuable assets that TNA ANA has that are obvious just by your membership. But I would say that we need to really have a great marketing campaign with testimonials and really dive deep into how we can connect with nurses of all generations so that they feel value. It's really what it's all about me. So we have to be able to really connect at that level. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, how would you respond to that question?
Thank you, Serena. I love this question so much, Ebony, because I use this question all the time. It's so important that our nurses understand the value of TNA. And so what I do when I'm talking with people about why should I join TNA, I give them the facts. What has TNA accomplished for your nursing practice that you may or may not even know about? There is so much happening in policy, so much happening in education, so much happening in your continuing nursing contact hours that you can get through the organization. It's simple to make a very persuasive case when we talk about workplace violence prevention, protecting nurses and changing laws that protect not only the person in the emergency room, but every healthcare provider in the building. When we talk about safe staffing standards and we make our state look at the law that's been there for many years and put some teeth behind it so it protects our nurses when they report. I could go on and on and on. I love this question, and I do this often in colleges of nursing and with my teams in the organizations I work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Shay, how would you respond?
Yeah, I think this is an awesome question as well. I think that I would respond by just really pointing out that when we talk about issues in nursing, those issues have to go somewhere. And it's really important that we have a voice in nursing, and that's what TNA does. That's what our dues move forward, is for us to have a stronger voice in Texas for the practice and profession of nursing. But also, they really connect us from a community standpoint. Community and connection is really, really important to what we do, understanding how nurses in other spaces and other roles are navigating those spaces and connecting to be able to have valuable dialogue about, how can we move our profession forward as a whole. Also, there's great professional support. I've met nurses who have 30 years of experience, 50 years of experience, and all have been able to really guide me as a
Thank you. So this next question is actually this question has been posed a little bit differently from two different members of the audience, and so I'm going to combine these two questions because they're very similar. So, as a member at large, director at large, how would you contribute to strengthening the voice in policy development? And so, and another way that was asked was, how exactly would you go about making sure the voices of Texas nurses are heard when we always only have a few nurses voting and participating in events, but so many who are complaining and complaining?
Yes.
So, those are both excellent questions, and that's one that is a head scratcher for me sometimes, even. So, Lori, we're going to start with you on that.
Thank you, Serena. It's a head scratcher for me as well. So I think the most critical issues are about safe staffing, about disparities in healthcare across our state, and about advancing full practice authority. Now, I could go on with a whole host of other things, but empowering nurses to be involved in policy is an amazing experience. I am passionate about policy, have been very involved in it for many years now. And being able to talk with nurses from other areas of the state to find out what is the priority for them, what is the pressure for you, where is the squeeze point, and how can we help you engage with your local legislator, your local colleges of nursing, your local school boards, all of the areas that you have influence, because you do. But I think we also need to empower nurses, because often they think that's someone else's role. It's not. We're the largest healthcare profession. It's our role, it's our responsibility, and our citizens are depending on us as nurses to be empowered and speak up for policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, Shay, we will go to you next.
Yes, so thanks so much for the question. I think it's really important that we are able to elevate those concerns from across the state. And that really comes with really engaging our members in such a way that they understand that their voice really does matter. From those concerns that we're able to elevate, then we're able to advocate for those policies that support them in their professional practice. I think that also workplace safety is a large concern. Patient outcomes is a large concern of nurses. And so how do we engage our members in such a way that we're able to partner with our legislators at the state level and at the local level to really help them to understand this is what nursing needs across the state to ensure that our practice and profession is safe and also impactful.
Good.
Thank you, Shay. And Dort, how about you?
Okay, I am so sorry I couldn't get off mute. And I do like to talk. So Lori and Shay had some really great answers. This is why I love TNA. I love the mission around being politically active for what we believe in. And I too, like Lori, have struggled with this answer question for years, scratching my head. But I truly believe that the way for nurses to feel empowered is to bring them along and not be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution. I know we have a lot of issues, and you all have mentioned many of them, and there are so many more, but there are way more solutions than there are than issues. And I think that I think we've already stated it, partner with our legislators, I found that bringing them to where it is, it's similar to Gemba. For those of you that are familiar with Gemba, you bring them to where the work is. Invite them into your care settings, into your professional venues, wherever you are in the state. And that will show them the why their support matters.
Thank you. All right, so I think this looks like it's the last question for our director at large candidates. And so how can you enforce by making managers more involved in what we do in TNA to help create awareness of TNA among the staff underneath them? And so Shay, we will start with you on that question.
This is such a beautiful question for me because I am a nurse manager. I think that, I don't know that there's a way to enforce anyone to be involved in TNA. I think what we have to do is show people the value of TNA. And as a nurse manager myself, I'm able to really market and display to nurse managers like myself the value, the impact that they can have within TNA and how they can take what they learn from TNA, get the resources, and they're able to give that back to their staff members and their team members so that they're able to be more effective and they're able to be more driven and have a voice within nursing across the state of Texas. So I think it looks like exemplifying those behaviors to nurse managers and leaders across the state.
Thank you. Dort?
Yes. So, how to get the managers? I think Shay's already said you can't force anybody to do anything. She sounds like she would absolutely take her people to the front lines, but you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to. So, what I have found most effective with any of my leaders, whatever level they are, charge nurse up to, ACNOs, that they come with me wherever I go. I role model the person that they should try to look at from a different lens. And I take them to meetings, to conferences, to wherever I go and show them how important their voice is and the work is for them as a nurse leader. And then by virtue of that role modeling, both for all my leaders, it flows down to my frontline staff. And I've found a lot of success with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lori?
So like both Dort and Shay said, you can't force someone, but the way I've tried to move this in my organization is to just gush TNA and all things that we're doing. When you start talking with your team, like Dort said, you're role modeling. You start talking with your team, your department, your professional governance group, and they hear about what's really actually happening at the state level. What policies are important? Are they important to them? Do they understand the staffing standards? It's interesting how they start getting jazzed about it. Well, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I was. And so I think it's all about what Dort was saying. You got to role model it. You got to live it in front of them. Help them catch the enthusiasm of being a part of the nursing voice for the state of Texas. That's how I want it to be done.
Okay, thank you. And then there one more question popped in, and so this will be our last question officially for this group. And the question is, what are your thoughts on the impact of AI on nursing practice? And so I think I'm back at the beginning of the rotation, and Dort, that would be you.
I got to tell you, I was terrified of AI when we started using it in whatever way, whether it's like for email or for documentation or at the bedside. But I am totally on board. And I believe that it definitely is going to be the future. There's one thing though, you can never replace the person. And so even though it's high tech, we have to have high touch. And the two have to occur at the same time. So what does that mean for nursing practice? What it means today. There is nothing more important than nursing practice, and the opportunities are endless with technology today. So we should embrace it, but never forget who we are and why we're here to take care of patients and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
Thank you for the opportunity. So one of the things that I think is a great resource for all of our TNA is that we have a position statement about this. How do we use AI in healthcare and nursing? And so the first thing I would do is refer back to that. But the next thing I would say is it's coming. And like Dort said, we need to take that technology and make it work for us so that we are high touch, that we are patient facing, and we're not bogged down in paperwork. This week, I was at a university at a luncheon with students, and I met a young woman who is doing a research project. She's using AI and geometry to measure trauma blood at the scene. Why is that important? Because that's going to inform the emergency providers about how they supplement. Right now, our EMS or nurses, whomever's there, are guessing. She's using AI and geometry to be able to give field knowledge for trauma patients quickly. That's the kind of stuff we need AI for.
All right. And Shay.
Yes, so I would say that AI is going to be a very powerful tool in healthcare. I think with that, it's really important that it's implemented in a way that is very ethical, very transparent, and that serves to protect nurses and patients and our practice standards. So I think there has to be a balance with AI, but there's absolutely so much benefit. It certainly has the capacity to reduce the burden and not add to our workloads. We know that frontline staff are experiencing burnout at rates higher than years previous. And also it should support our clinical judgment and not replace it. So just help us in the decision-making process. So if AI can add and be beneficial to our work and our patients, I think it will be warmly welcomed, but it must be implemented in a way that's ethical for nursing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Williams, back to you.
All right. That brings us up to our next set of candidates, and we are going to now hear from the candidates for the TNA board member at large small district position. This position on the TNA board is held by a member from a district that is not one of the top 5 districts in terms of membership. So the candidate elected will serve a 3-year term from 2026 to 2029. And our first candidate is Lori Forbes. Lori.
Thank you. I didn't know if I could unmute or if you had to. Hello, my name is Lori Forbes. I am seeking this great opportunity to serve on the board for TNA for small districts. Just a little background. For 7 years, our district, District 21, was designated at large. As president of District 21, I led our efforts to reactivate the district, and as of October 1st, 2025, we achieved recognition by the TNA board as an active integrated district. The success did not happen, sorry, by chance. This took a lot of dedication by committed nurses in the area, and they were willing to lead, collaborate, and persist. And so despite our limited resources and sometimes unclear pathways, we went through the startup phase and got everything going. I recognize that is one of the hardest parts is the startup, and that's where I think a lot of districts struggle, especially at the at-large districts. So because I understand both the challenge and the impact of reactivation of a district, as a board member, my goal is to make that first step more achievable for other at-large districts. I see a clear opportunity to identify practical strategies, shared resources, and structured support to help the other 13 at-large TNA districts move to our nurses.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Our next candidate is Patricia Francis Johnson. Pat, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
I am a longtime TNA member and a current board member, so I'm running for re-election. So my goal would be to prioritize the membership pillar by looking at strengthening our small districts outside of urban areas while continuing to expand innovative membership categories for students and retired nurses. And I would propose the development of a dedicated membership category for retired nurses whose wisdom, expertise, and institutional knowledge remain invaluable to the profession. These expert nurses could continue to contribute by serving as content experts on committees, reviewing abstracts, and mentoring the next generation of nurses. And this approach would support retention at both the entry and exit points of the nursing career continuum, ensuring sustained engagement across all stages of professional development. Additionally, I would strive to be an example through active involvement at all levels of the association, especially at the district level. And this would require visibility, presence, and intentionality, means actively participating in and publicly supporting district and state activities while consistently communicating what the mission and vision of Texas Nurses Association is. So by fostering meaningful connections and promoting opportunities for leadership, scholarship, we will strengthen the role of TNA throughout the state.
All right. All right. Okay, you've heard the candidates for the board member at large for small district. You've heard the two candidates. If you have questions for right now, again, I remind you to please type them in the chat box. Give you a few minutes to do that. And I would remind the candidates again to please keep your answers brief. And Serena, you can monitor and see if there are questions.
And there is one here so far. And this question asks, what current trend or issue in healthcare do you believe will most impact nurses in your district over the next 3 to 5 years? Why do you think that? And how do you believe we can best keep nurses informed about this issue? So we will, Lori, we will start with you.
Ebony always has the best questions, so
She does,
I
yes.
appreciate these. For the nurses in our areas, I think the biggest issue is staffing, and continuing to attract staff who are qualified, and the sustainability of that staff. So I don't think that that's going to go away anytime soon, and I think that that will be the next, the issue in the next 3 to 5 years. And how do we keep nurses informed about that? I think we have to just up our game as far as communication, social media. We have to, bombard people with just that messaging over and over again, and personal messaging through the universities, through other organizations, connecting with other organization leaders and just going and talking to them, and really being a part of that, and then making that connection. And I don't know how you attract someone to the desert, but if there's a way, we're going to find it. So
I like it.
Lori, you just gotta talk about Landman. That'll get people to Midland, Odessa. How's that? Um, Pat, how about you? How would you respond to that question?
I agree with Lori on what the issue is staffing in my particular area, and just making sure that the nurses there are informed and we're listening to what their concerns are, and making sure that they are getting involved at that policy level, at the grassroots level, that they're communicating with the legislators, and just making sure that they're knowledgeable about what the issues are so that they can feel that they are making a difference. So the issue is not going to go away. I think it's becoming more prevalent as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Our next question for both of you asks, how can nurses best help solve the problem of healthcare deserts in rural areas? And Pat, we'll start with you for this question.
Okay. Um, I think by collaborating with other, like with Midland, Odessa, collaborating with Amarillo, El Paso, all those areas that are isolated, that we collaborate together and make sure that we're communicating and joining forces and reaching out to even in our district, reaching out to all of the nurses that are located in our district so that they have an opportunity to communicate and engage. And that might be using social media, using other methods to reach them, but also communicating with other districts as well to make sure that we're keeping everyone informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Lori, how about you?
So I think that's a great answer, Pat, and I think you're right on. I mean, collaboration is the key, and I think as we are able to build our more rural communities through TNA and making that connection with district level activation. I think that people will have a wider network to rely on, and I think it's us making the connection and networking and being a part of understanding what other people are doing and sharing that message, because what we're doing at Midland Memorial might be something that one of the other hospitals in Ward County or something, maybe they want to do that same thing, but we have to share that message and collaborate and make sure that we're communicating amongst each other. And what does that take? It just takes effort. It takes time. It takes a little bit of extra work, but it's so worth it because nurses will transform health in Texas if we just keep on doing that.
Okay. Next question for both of you is, what factors do you believe are driving so many early career nurses to leave the profession within their first few years of practice? And what can TNA do to retain this younger generation of nurses? So, Lori, I believe it's your turn to go first.
Well, that's a great one to go first on. Well, this is an excellent question, and I think it's a conundrum that we're all facing. But I think the younger generation, they're in it for the short term. It's a tour of duty basically. And so when we're talking about that as far as the workload goes, I think that they're sort of not liking the workload that they're putting up with. And I think there are maybe some ways that we can look at what the work is, the workload, and see what we can do to alter those things. However, what can TNA do? I mean, research. We can research what's going to work best. What things have we tried before? What things, start working with guidelines on those best practices, and maybe we can trial some different things out. But the younger generation, they don't want to work in the same capacity, and maybe it's time that we look at that and decide that there's a different way to deliver the kind of care that we need to in a work environment that's changed, updated.
Thank you. Pat, how would you respond?
And unmute myself. Yes, this is a great question. It's looking at what is important to the nurses in the early career nurses. What are they wanting from the profession? What do they even want from TNA? And looking at what do we need to give them to feel like they're valued, that their voice is heard, that they're important to the organization and to the profession. But looking at things from their perspective, and maybe we need to do things a little bit differently. The way that I communicate may not be the way that they communicate, but communicate to them in their way that would reach them, but also finding out what they need and what they are wanting from either professional development or from mentoring, even starting.
Thank you both for your responses. And Sarah, we have no more questions in the chat.
All right. Well, that again brings us up to our next candidate, and our next candidate for the TNA board member is one of our newer candidates in positions on the board, and that is representing the licensed vocational nurses. And this position on the board is reserved for a member who is a licensed vocational nurse, and the candidate elected will serve a 3-year term from 2026 to 2029. The candidate with us this evening is Nancy Ornelas. Nancy, you're on.
Okay, my name is Nancy Ornelas. I have over 30 years of experience as an LVN. I've started in labor and delivery, and my last floor assignment was actually being a surgical assistant in ortho neurospine. So, being diverse in in those practices, I believe that I can represent LVNs in our state of Texas. I know that right now in 2023, DSHS had reported over 50,000 LVNs in the state of Texas. But being part of the LVN committee, I see that we have very few LVNs involved in that. So I really want to encourage LVNs that they do have a seat at the table. Also that experiencing Nurses Day at the Capitol, I believe also gave me that insight about how important it is to be part of the organization TNA and the things that they have to offer for nurses, the opportunities. And I believe also the opportunity that was given to me by Dr. Bumpus and Dr. Vitamus was to speak at ANA and try to incite membership of LVNs into the ANA. So I believe that we all need a seat at the table, whether it's Texas Nurse Association, American Nurse Association, because we are, we're there. We are nurses. We are not just someone else that's on the floor helping along, because, you know, that's, we want to make sure that LVNs really realize how important they are to the practice.
Okay. If you have any questions for Nancy, I'll give you a few minutes again to type your question or questions in the chat box. And I'm going to remind again our candidate, our respondents to please keep your answers brief. And so, Serena, I will give it to you and to monitor the questions as they come in.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that have come through. So, Nancy, how would you work to intentionally expand the influence and voice of LVNs in policy development at the district, state, and national level, particularly in spaces where LVNs have historically been underrepresented or excluded?
God, that's an easy one to start off with. Uh, so I believe one thing that I do like to do is speak about TNA and LVN involvement. I like to go out there and really go and meet the LVNs on the floor. I actually, my office is on the floor. So when I go out there and I see an LVN badge, I make a point of going to speak to them. I said, hey, are you TNA member? And really allowing them to see what Texas Nurse Association does for nurses and to encourage them to be part of policy. One of the things that I have really been grateful for is being on the LVN committee. And one of the things that we that Laura Kinchlow brings to us is that environmental scan. So that's one thing also that I like to do with our nurses, and not only our nurses in the hospital, but we have different providers of home health, home hospice that come into our organization, and I try to seek them out and speak to them also. Also been invited to speak to students that are in the LVN program. I believe that just like me, some of the
Nancy,
all right.
Yeah, that question, your time was up, but
okay.
You do have
Thank you.
another question in the chat. And that question asks, what will you do as the LVN representative on the TNA board to make sure that LVN's voices and concerns are heard in board positions?
I think that is one of the things that as I commented in the prior question, is that environmental scan. not only seeing what they need as an LVN, but other items too in their practice. I believe that bringing that diversity in my practice, I can bring that to the board and be part of that. I think I was very fortunate to be allowed to have such a diverse practice, and I'll be part of nurse leadership support for our nurses in our organization. And I think that has taught me a lot of good, not just lessons, but just giving me more insight in what not only LVNs need, but what the RNs need in regards to leadership roles. And I believe that you don't have to, you can be a leader in an LVN role. And I want to bring that to the TNA board is also that LVNs do have a voice. And I think that with so many LVNs in practice now, especially coming out from their dual credits, I believe that that's.
And Nancy, that was your time for that question.
Yes.
You do have there's one more question in here for you, and that is, what is one concern or challenge for LVNs here in Texas?
I believe the one concern that most LVNs have is that they were told that they can't work in a hospital, that they can't be part of an organization like Miller Memorial Hospital, that they can only work in a clinic or an assisted living or a retirement home. And I think that that was one of the concerns that LVNs have. Can I really work in a hospital? Yes, you can. I think that that's one of the one things that that have been the misconception of the LVN role. And I want to make sure that that concern is taken care of. Also, their scope of practice. I think that a scope of practice in an LVN is just important as an RN. And I want to make sure that they are have some clarity about that.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that concludes our pertinent questions for the board for this position. So Sarah, next we're free to move on.
All right then. And finally, this evening, we're going to hear from the candidates for the chair of the Leadership Succession Committee. The candidate elected for this position will lead the committee to slate the annual ballot with the qualified candidates based on the TNA laws, bylaws, and election policies, and will serve a 3-year term from 2026 to 2029. So the questions that are posed to these candidates are, how will you help attract talented candidates that meet the competencies needed to advance TNA's mission? And the second question is, based on TNA's mission, vision, and strategic plan, what qualities will you be looking for in potential candidates for TNA elected positions? The candidate with us this evening is Dr. Nelson Tuazon. Dr. Nelson Tuazon, you are on.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you, Dr. Williams, for setting the stage for us. So very briefly, 3 things about me. I've been a nurse for 45 years in practice, academia, and policy. I've been an officer or member of the board of 5 organizations, TNA being one of them, as past president of District 8 and past treasurer of the TNA, and currently serving as the bylaws chair of TNA. And I've been a member of the Nominations and Elections Committee of 3 national organizations, so I'm very familiar with vetting candidates. How will I attract candidates for TNA? Actually, my job is so easy with the candidates that we have tonight. You know, we are in a good start. So, but specifically 3 ways. 1, strengthen outreach and engagement. I really like the way that our president and CEO are doing the outreach to the different areas. So maybe the leadership succession chair be part of that outreach so they can see us and we can start nominating and identifying talent from the get-go. The second, promote opportunities for clear communication, either virtually via the TNA website or emails or newsletters. The last one will be to build relationships so that we can develop the pipeline and relate with other organizations. What will I seek in the candidates? Just like you, we'll be looking for mission-driven candidates. We'll be looking for strategic and innovative candidates. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Okay. If you have any questions again for Nelson, please type your questions in. We'll give you a few minutes to tap your questions into the chat box. And again, I'm going to say, keep your answer brief, Nelson. And
Thank you.
I'll give Serena time to start channeling the questions if there are any in the chat box.
Okay, we have one question so far, and that question is, what intentional steps would you take to elevate underrepresented voices, that includes LVNs, rural nurses, early career nurses, nurses of color, into leadership pathways?
Great, thank you for that great question. So two things specifically in my experience when I was president of District 8, unbeknownst to me that we actually had an LBN position or members at TNA. And we started meeting with the LBNs first with our facility and then met with LBNs in different hospitals in San Antonio and trying to formulate an organization for them. And then Dr. Bumpus informed us that we actually have already a category. So that was a welcome news to the LBNs in our district. So we actually had sponsored about 10 nurses to become members of TNA. I am a member of different organizations as well, including the MedSurg nurses, the Philippine nurses. I assisted in building the Indian Nurses Association, the Nigerian Nurses Association. So we have relationship already with these organizations, and the value proposition of TNA is very evident.
Thank you, Nelson. The next question is, in consideration of the recent Department of Education ruling excluding nurses from the professional degree programs, how do you plan to encourage nurses to invest in the future of their nursing practice?
Excellent question. The way I think is I have always a thesis, an antithesis, and then at the end there will be a synthesis. The thesis for that is that nursing will always be, has always been, and will continue to be a profession regardless of how we are labeled. The antithesis to that is that the ruling for the professional category is about tuition reimbursement. So, in my mind, there needs to be education of our members about the actual meaning of that regulation. We need to advocate for our profession to remain a profession and will continue to be a profession regardless of what others say. But we need to also protect our members so that we don't pay exorbitant fees for tuition. So, in the middle, in my mind, there's always that value proposition for nursing. So, 24 years in a row, nursing has always been the trusted profession. So,
Thank you. So another question. This is a creative and innovative question here. How can we use generative AI to attract not only innovative, dedicated nurse leaders, but young career nurses to TNA positions and to be active?
absolutely. Great job. Great question again. So, I have retired officially from administration and I'm transitioning to academia. I've been an educator for the last 25 years. I teach in a pre-licensure program and I actually encourage our nurses to use AI. Now, these are not my own words, but I'm going to attribute them to our president, Dr. Amy McCarthy. She says that we need to make AI as our team member. AI has to be a member of our team, but as nurses, we must supervise AI. So, to encourage the young generation, I am learning AI. I want to be familiar with AI because I think our candidate for board said it very well that it can help us unload some of our work. So, if we make AI attractive to the young nurses, maybe they'll come to nursing because they know that there's a tool that they can help them provide care.
Thank you, Nelson. And it doesn't look like we have any other questions here in the chat. So I believe that will bring us to a close tonight. And want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We did record this session, so a video of the event, as well as all of the candidates' biographical sketches, their campaign flyers, or their campaign videos, will be posted on the TNA website in the member zone under leadership opportunities. The ballot officially opens at 8 a.m. on February 4th and closes at midnight on February 19th. Everyone who was a TNA member as of December 31st, 2025 will receive an email with a link to the ballot. So I do encourage all of you who are here tonight to make sure that you remind your peers who are members of TNA to cast their votes and to engage in this process. So please encourage your fellow TNA members to review the materials and cast their votes. And with that, we will sign off, and I wish you all a great evening and a rest of the week, and good luck to all of our candidates.